So I'm here on my server screen, and today I'm going to be talking about data analysis, why it's so important, how we can do it to actually take the best from a system. Let's say an aquaponics system like the one I have here. This chart here is our first data analysis that I want to show you guys. The blue line was taken from a paper written by a biologist. It's actually a feeding ratio for the fish and correlates with the temperature. So, well, the fish change their behavior according to the water temperature, so it's only natural to actually adapt the amount of food, the food ratio that you're giving them at a given time based on the temperature. My first code, my first controller, my first code actually took advantage of the blue line. But after a while, I realized that this was not the ideal way, at least not for me, especially because I'm doing it with an electronic controller. It's actually quite simple. There are quite a low amount of steps that you got to remember if you're doing this manually, let's say measuring the temperature by hand and actually calculating on site if you're next to your pond. So I decided that since I had a controller, I would actually change a little bit, because I realized that sometimes I was wasting food, polluting water because the fish don't eat. That's especially true when you got tiny fish. So those steps can be quite a significant variation. They don't eat all the food. Food goes to waste, and like I said. But on the other hand, well, the blue line is quite good. It's quite good when you got a large scale aquaculture systems. It's easier to remember. So I came up with the red line. The code right here on this other screen, it's actually how the controller is doing. It starts at 18 degrees, giving a percentage of 25, and stops at 33 degrees at a percentage of 100%. And the trend line here, the orange line, is actually the output from the software, the spreadsheet. It calculates the linear output right here. We got even the R square, 93%, which is quite good, a quite good representation, quite linear output. So yeah, that's a great example of how important and how to actually use those tools. Right now, let's focus on the data from the controllers. Here's tank 1. Those are hour by hour charts. Here's the temperature. We can see that the temperature on tank 1 actually fluctuates quite a bit. But well, my fish are now adapted to that situation. They seem to don't care. So well, it's not a big deal. But since the temperature fluctuates a lot, well, obviously the amount of food at a given day will actually fluctuate quite a bit, as we guys can see here on the green line. Just remember, the red line is actually the maximum temperature. That's why it's a square. The blue line is actually the minimum temperature, and the yellow line is the temperature hour by hour. Here I got another interesting amount of data. That's the level, and those bars are actually the amount of water that was added to the system. Right here, that's another very interesting data that you can analyze. Well, At this moment I had a leak on tank 1, one of the pipes, if I'm not mistaken, was leaking. So but just by looking at this chart you can realize that there's something wrong at this moment. So that's another good thing. Oh, and by the way, another excellent feature of this software is that I can actually export this data to actually the Excel spreadsheet. So let's say I want to plot the level. Can insert chart. And by the way, that's a very old version, 2003, if I'm not mistaken. Next. So here's the level. I can export that. I can save it to a larger file, because that chart over here only gives me 42.5 days. But what I'm doing is that I'm doing a very large file where I get data from time to time, just adding, and I can show you guys if I remember where that file is, but get there in a second. Now we got the minute by minute, which is another good thing, because sometimes an hour by hour on a chart that's updated only in the hours is not enough to actually see what's going on. So here we can definitely see how the temperature fluctuates, vary during the day. Here's when the sun kicks in. It's quite a straight line up, and that's nighttime, so the temperature will gradually starts to drop. So here, my other tank 2, we can see that the temperature is far more stable. Here's the water level. Here's that line was actually the moment that I installed the pressure sensor. So from this moment on, I had the pressure sensor. That's 500 liters right here. Actually 90 the set point, but 90 is the analog value, but well, right here is 500 liters. One thing that I want to mention that I find quite cool is that I only have actually two peaks, this only happened 2 times, so it's quite not good enough to actually tell for sure. But well, they got the same magnitude, 19 liters. So every time the controller had to actually open the water to actually replace water due to water losses, evaporation, took the exactly same amount of water. So that tells this piece of sensor here, the MPX 5010. It's a very reliable, very precise sensor. Gives you a very stable output. We can see that there's tiny variations like this when we go minute by minute, but that's probably due to the water temperature correlates with the water temperature. Let's say here and here, because well, water is a fluid. It expands and contracts as the temperature fluctuates. And here's the heater chart for tank 2. Actually, we can see here that it's quite easy to actually maintain the temperature. The controller starts the heater just a tiny amount of time, then a line here, then a line, another step up, line, step up, line, step up. If we go back to actually tank 1, well, the heater does not do the trick. It has to rely on the sun to actually heat up and turn off the heater, because this is a 700 watt heater. There's more water, 3 times the amount of water in this tank. There's tons of pipes and ways to actually cool down the water, something that I don't have on tank 2. That's why it's quite more it's quite easy, even though this is only a 230 watt heater. So, well, I suppose I talked a lot. This video is getting quite long, but I hope this video shows how important and how to actually analyze some of the data that you might find on your aquaponics system. And even if you're dealing with the data yourself, even if you're measuring, let's say, pH, temperature, if you're using a probe, you don't have to do a quite sophisticated system like this to actually rely on data analysis. You can do by hand. You can actually take advantage of simple tools. So thanks for watching.